Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on what time you're watching this video. It's me again, Teacher Kent. And today we'll continue where we left off, specifically about natural disasters. Now, let me just share to you my PowerPoint presentation. This is where we talked about last time. Okay, this was the first natural disaster that we talked about, the flood. But let's review first. What is a natural disaster? It Let's cut the words in half. Natural and then disaster. Okay? Natural, it basically means it comes from nature. That's it. From the word nature, natural. And disaster, it means something that is bad or something bad or an event that happened that affected a lot of people. Now, let's continue. Natural disasters. The first one we talked about is the flood. A flood is an event when a place is submerged or covered in water. Like what happened to Supanburi a few weeks ago. Remember when I said that the dam or the place where there's a lot of water in Danchang, they decided to open the dam to let a lot of water pass. Because if they didn't, the dam might be broken and then it will cause a lot of flooding all over Supanburi. So they just let a small amount of water to go out. But that small amount of water causes places to look like this. A lot of places in Supanburi look like this. A lot of houses, especially those near the river, water went into those houses. They went in. And the water went into the houses and they all got, a lot of appliances got destroyed. A lot of people had to clean up their houses after the flood. And even some animals' lives were lost. So that is it, a flood. A flood usually happens when there's a lot of rain over a certain area and that area cannot like let go of all of the water that the rain gave them. Now let's go to the next one. We talked about what will happen if there is a flood. Like floods cause traffic, obviously. Some animals might die, farms and houses will be destroyed, and people might drown. Next, what should we do? We should prepare survival kits. Stay calm and do not panic. Just calm down, chill, and do not play in flood water. We should also get to higher ground if necessary. And after flood, we need to check if electricity is dangerous. Okay, now let's continue to the next natural disaster, and that is erosion. Okay, erosion. What is erosion? Erosion is the wearing down and removal of rocks and soil materials by natural processes, mainly by water. So, this is what erosion looks like. Water knocks off the sharp edges of the rocks, making the rocks smaller, rounder, and smoother. Waves also hit rocks on a beach. They smash against each other. This process is called erosion. Now, weathering, it causes the rocks to break down. So what is weathering? Weathering is from the word itself, weather. And what are the types of weather? We have sunny, rainy, windy, cloudy, stormy, and a lot more, right? Well, the rocks will slowly get broken over a very long period of time. The rocks will get broken, especially if there's rain and sun. For example, there's a rock and the rock stays on top of the hill. The water hits the rock. Normally, The water does not break the rock, right? Because water isn't that strong, especially a rainwater. It can't like break the rock, but that's correct. However, that is if the rain hits the rock once only. What happens if the rain hits the rock 1,000 times or 2,000 times? Just 2,000 or 1,000 times the raindrops hit a rock. What do you think will happen? Well, slowly but surely, the rainwater will get inside the small spaces in the rock. And once there's water inside the rock, it will slowly but surely crack the rock from the inside. Especially if there's like after rain, there's sun. And then the sun will, of course, will cause the rain to evaporate into water vapor, right? So what will happen to the space inside the rock that has water before? It will be empty. And once it's empty and then there's another rain that comes, the water will stay again inside the rock. And the water then again will slowly break the rock inside. And then it will then be turned into water vapor again. This time the hole is a lot bigger because there's a lot more water that can come inside. That process is called weathering because the weather itself causes the rocks to break down. And if you look in the picture, erosion, water, and transport moves the sediments downhill to another place. There will come a time that the rainwater will break the rock so much that a small part of the rock will go down the hill. And once it goes down the hill and it hits another rock, this small rock will break. And once the rock will break, it will then cause weathering again, making the rock smaller. That is the first type of weathering. When the rocks from the top of the mountain goes down. The moment that weathering is when the rocks break apart. Erosion is when the rocks that are on top of the mountain will go down. Okay? Weathering causes the rocks to break. Erosion causes the rock particles to go down. But that's not the only erosion. We also have coastal erosion. Imagine there's a big rock in the middle of a beach. And what happens when it's in the beach? There's always a lot of, what's that? Waves, okay? Normally, like what I said before, a rock can hold or is okay against water. If you wet a rock, you get a rock, put water on it, it won't break the rock. But if you do it 1,000 or 2,000 times, the rock will slowly chip away or slowly break apart, just like what happens when a rock is in the middle of a beach. It will slowly hit the rock, and then the rock will slowly chip away. So what will happen to them? The rock will be broken. And then, remember, this is not like rain where it's slowly hitting the rock. A wave is sometimes so strong that it's like somebody is slapping the rock. It's like the water is hitting the rock. If you hit a rock 1,000 times, the rock might break. But humans, we cannot do that. So water can do that in the form of waves. So it will continue hitting them 1,000 times. After a few months or years, the rock will then slowly get broken. And if some of the rocks go down and get chipped away by the wave, it will be carried into the ocean. And then those rocks that is carried into the ocean will go back to the other rock, the big rock, and hit the rock. This time it's a lot more stronger because when it hits the rock, it's not just water, but some parts of the rock. That process is called coastal erosion. From the word coastal, means in the coast, the sea coast. It erodes, and not just rocks, class. It also takes away sand and soil. If you notice, every year, the seashore will come closer to land because the water will get some of the soil and bring it back to the sea. That is called coastal erosion. So that erosion doesn't just happen on top of like mountains or in the seas. They also happen in rivers. Waves crash at the cliff, the air inside compresses. Waves carry the piece of rock and smash against each other. Waves carrying the pieces of rocks and hurl them at the cliff. Minerals in rocks are dissolved by weak acids in seawater. Now, let's say there's a river and it's constantly moving, because that is what a river is. It's always moving. Now, when it's always moving, what do you think will happen? It will slowly break some rocks and some soil, right? It will bring soil and rocks when it moves. And these little pieces of rocks, if they hit other rocks, the rocks will become broken over a long period of time. So the rocks will also, or the rivers will also cause erosion. Now, what are the effects of erosion? First, topsoil is lost. It loses nutrients. What does it mean? It means that if there's a lot of rain and it carries a lot of soil to rivers, we lose topsoil. That is where the plants have a lot of minerals that the plants can use to grow. So if we lose the topsoil, some plants might not grow. Next, wind picks up soil particles and air pollution. It's not just water, but sometimes very strong wind, they carry small soil pieces and small rocks with them. Eroded soil does not hold water, thus water pollution. Okay, this is a problem. When the water carries away a lot of the soil, it makes the rainwater dirty because there's a lot of soil there. Thus, it will cause water pollution, especially if it goes to a river and that river is clean. But if there is water that has a lot of sand, a lot of soil in it, it will cause the river to become dirty. Next, coastal erosion changes the shape of coastlines. This is what I said before. Every single year, the coast, the seashore, they will slowly become smaller bit by bit, about 1 centimeter each year. It may not seem very much, but in 10 years, that's 10 centimeters. And in like 100 years, that's 1 meter. And 1 meter is a lot. Let's continue. So what to do? Conserve plowing, slows down the runoff excess. This is when farmers, they make sure that when they plant trees or they plant crops, they use contour plowing. It slows down the water that might carry the soil. We also have terracing, using terraces to grow crops on hills and sides. I will show you a video about terraces when we have class. Strip cropping, planting different crops in land, in which we plant a lot of crops in the land. Next, crop rotation, different crops on the same land in different times. And breakwater and wave barriers. Don't worry, I will explain this one by one when we have online class this Friday. So I will see you then, class. Bye.